Do you want me to talk about this really quickly?
Yeah,
we've got about 2 minutes, and hopefully we get to the slides where we've got books and like texts that we suggest. So this is a critical literacy framework by Hilary Jenks, and it's an understanding of power. So it's called the interdependent model, where in order to do critical literacy, we must always be considering and asking questions related to issues of access, domination or power, diversity or identity, and design or redesign. So I think for literacy and language, English literacy and language teachers, this is a particularly useful framework for thinking about, well, how do texts work? How does power become instantiated in texts? What access do we have, and to whose identities do we have access to? And how is that embedded in the way genres are comprised or constructed, how stories are told, the kinds of decisions that different authors make? And therefore also putting your learners in the position of text designers. What kinds of decisions do they make when they're writing a story, constructing a poem, putting a poster together? Are they aware of the potential social impact of the kinds of decisions that they make? And so if this kind of heightened awareness of how language is used as a tool to either, give power or take power or remove power or share power, that becomes an important way of thinking about it. So I won't go into any more detail than that, but that is really useful, I think.
Thank you. Next slide. So just a couple of frequently asked questions when we're looking at anti-racism and decolonizing the curriculum. Math teachers who feel that they're not racist, and that means their teaching can't be racist. Again, we need to question what we mean by racism, because we live in a society that has inherited a system of racism. Remember that colonization created racism. Racism was created over several centuries, and it's not something that we can dismantle overnight. So starting off by accepting that it's very, very probable that we live in a racist society, that everything we do can contribute to racism if we're not careful. So doing nothing is probably going to contribute to racism unless you're actively anti-racist. So starting off from a point that everything we do, if we're not actively anti-racist, is probably contributing to racism, is a good starting point. Looking at decolonizing the curriculum, does it mean that we have to stop teaching Shakespeare and Dickens because they're old white men? No, that doesn't. I mean, we've already kind of discussed that. It's about thinking about the different perspectives you present in your curriculum and thinking more critically about the text. So in Shakespeare, we'll often have representations of darkness as evil, or the word fair as a compliment, is something that's worth looking up to. So getting people to critically question the language that's used and the representations, but also putting those texts alongside other diverse writers of color, writers and authors of color, to make sure that there is a balance and that those narratives are present and not marginalized. So it's about, again, countering those narratives that are problematic. I don't have time to decolonize a curriculum, and all the school books are pale, male, and stale. So I think that is a really good point. It's difficult to change everything over one summer. It's important to think of the different ways you can present multiple counter narratives. So if you're looking at text and you don't have many school resources for new books, for example, looking at poetry is a good place to start. And we've got a series of texts on the next slide to help you with that. looking at creative writing, reflective writing. When you're looking at close reading as well, with comprehension text, you can take extracts from different writers of color that look at different issues that might not be in the rest of your curriculum. So there's always space for imagination, and